Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CRISC Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the exam with focused explanations and practical context. Before any risk assessment can be considered reliable, it must be built on a clear and accurate understanding of the organization's business goals and technology environment. In other words, you cannot manage what you do not first understand. This is why collecting and reviewing organizational information is a foundational step in the risk management life cycle. When information is missing, outdated, or misunderstood, the resulting risk assessments will be flawed, leading to control gaps, wasted resources, or even misaligned risk treatment plans. For CRISC professionals, this early-stage discovery process supports strategic alignment, reveals operational exposure, and enables credible decision-making. On the exam, when a scenario describes a failed assessment, the root cause is often traced back to incomplete or inaccurate information collection at the start. The first layer of discovery begins with understanding the business itself, its goals, structure, and operational context. Collecting business information means reviewing the organization's mission, vision, and strategic objectives to understand what it is trying to achieve and what success looks like. This data reveals the value drivers that risk must protect. Next, it's important to examine the organizational structure and identify key stakeholders. Since decisions about risk tolerance and prioritization often come from leadership or cross-functional groups, business processes and critical functions must be documented to understand which workflows are essential, where customer interactions occur, and how internal operations are supported. Financial objectives, compliance obligations, and the competitive landscape must also be included to identify external pressures that shape risk appetite. Together, this data defines the strategic risk context, the backdrop against which technical risks must be evaluated. Equally important is the collection of technical information that shapes the IT risk landscape. This includes network diagrams, system architecture documents, and documented data flows, which reveal how information travels, where it is stored, and which systems support which functions. An accurate asset inventory is necessary, along with configuration baselines to identify what normal looks like. These artifacts help assess potential exposure and recovery feasibility. Understanding system interdependencies and integration points is essential. Many risks arise not from a single asset, but from the failure of systems that depend on each other. Operational service level agreements, recovery objectives, and incident history provide additional insight into how well the environment can withstand disruptions. On the exam, questions that mention unclear dependencies, outdated asset lists, or mismatched RTOs often point to weak technical data gathering. A comprehensive risk assessment relies on a complete and validated IT inventory. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Information collection is not just about documents. It also involves identifying the right people and platforms. Stakeholders such as business unit leaders and process owners offer insight into operational realities, priorities, and pain points. From the technology side, IT operations, enterprise architects, and cybersecurity teams provide visibility into the infrastructure, control environment, and recent changes. Governance, risk and compliance systems, configuration management databases, policy repositories, and past audit reports are all valuable data sources. In environments that rely on third parties or outsourced services, vendor documentation and contractual information also matter. On the exam, a scenario might mention the use of an outdated system diagram or an incorrect assumption about system ownership. This signals a data validation gap. The best answers in these situations involve confirming data freshness and stakeholder engagement before proceeding. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. CRISC professionals must select the right methods for gathering information based on the organization's complexity, the scope of the assessment, and the need for accuracy. Interviews and questionnaires are useful for gathering insights from stakeholders and understanding context that may not appear in documentation. Reviewing existing documents, including policies, network maps, and logs, is essential for mapping systems and confirming control placement. Site walkthroughs or virtual architecture reviews help validate whether stated configurations actually exist and whether procedures are being followed. Data mining from dashboards, security logs, or previous risk assessments can provide trend data or highlight known weaknesses. On the exam, questions may ask how to start a new assessment, and the correct answers often include some combination of interviews, documentation review, and architectural validation. The method must match the environment and support confidence in the data. Once information is gathered, it must be organized and validated. CRISC professionals typically classify findings by domain, such as business, IT, compliance, and by risk category. Data must be cross-checked for consistency, and ownership must be confirmed to ensure follow-up accountability. Documents that are outdated or incomplete must be updated, and any recent initiatives or structural changes must be accounted for to ensure relevance. Special attention should be given to critical data points, including which systems are considered mission-critical, who is responsible for each one, and whether any legal or regulatory red flags exist. On the exam, data quality matters. Answers that reflect a structured and validated view of the organization will outperform those that proceed with assumptions or gaps. Accurate, traceable data builds confidence in the overall assessment. The ultimate goal of information collection is to ensure that the risk assessment is aligned with real business needs and technical realities. CRISC professionals must be able to link assets to processes and those processes to the organization's mission and customer obligations. This linkage helps determine what is truly critical, which threats matter most, and which control failures would cause the greatest harm. Strategic objectives must be mapped to threat scenarios so that the assessment is not just technically accurate but also business relevant. IT capabilities such as backup systems, monitoring tools, or failover capacity must be compared with tolerance levels defined by leadership. On the exam, if a scenario suggests that risk treatment plans ignored system interdependencies or business priorities, it is likely pointing to a failure in this alignment step. The correct answer will reinforce the need for business ID connection and risk relevance. To support this discovery process, CRISC professionals often use tools and templates that bring structure and consistency to the information gathering phase. These include risk information gathering checklists, which ensure that no key area is overlooked. Process maps and swim lane diagrams help visualize how activities are performed and by whom. Asset classification matrices and system registries track critical systems, associated risks and control coverage. RACI charts clarify who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed for each asset or process. Ownership documents define data stewards, system owners, and policy leads. All of this documentation must be stored in a way that supports reuse, auditing, and version control. On the exam, questions about preparation, reporting, or reuse often point to the value of structured documentation and the use of governance-friendly tools. Despite best efforts, CRISC professionals often face challenges in collecting and validating information. Departmental silos may limit visibility, with teams maintaining separate or incompatible records. Documentation may be outdated, or critical systems may not be registered in the formal inventory. Stakeholders might be unavailable or reluctant to share information, especially if they view the assessment as a compliance burden. Interviews may be biased, with individuals downplaying risks or overestimating control strength. Data may also be incomplete due to technical limitations or resource constraints. On the exam, scenarios that describe miscommunication, missing records, or surprise findings usually reflect one or more of these pitfalls. The best responses emphasize collaboration, validation, cross-functional coordination, and improvements to stakeholder engagement. Exam questions that focus on this topic often test your ability to recognize what is missing or how to structure discovery. You might be asked what information is required to complete a risk analysis, and correct answers often include process maps, system dependencies, or data ownership. You may also be asked what step should come first in a scenario, and the right response is usually to gather or validate context before proceeding to risk identification or control design. Other questions may ask why a risk was misclassified, and the correct answer may be linked to a poor or incomplete review. Some scenarios test tool knowledge, such as checklists, interviews, or architectural reviews. And your job is to select the one that best supports accuracy and traceability. The best answers always reflect a structured, complete, and business line discovery process. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cyber CRISC Prepcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com.